Alright, boys and girls, another Warcraft 3 game, and let's get back into this. So this time we're actually on Terranos stand, and all the way up to the top left we have a LiiLD.C, so a little bit of old school Swedish nostalgia that we have here, going up in a Nightelf versus Orc against Worker, down to the bottom right. This is again a replay cast, and the replay is part of one of the qualifier cups for one of the Russian cups here. So at this point I'm actually looking into quite a couple of the games here, the replays mainly, and I'm also thinking about casting a tournament pretty soon, but we're going to start with a small one. Don't really want to go too big, since again I'm just like getting my feet wet when it comes to Warcraft 3 again, with Reforged obviously in the mind. But I'm going to cast a cup probably next Sunday, so in 7 days, and I'm currently looking forward to that. It's a smaller cup, and it's one of the cups that's being played on the Azeroth though. So I'm gonna try and drop the link into the description if I don't forget later. If any of you boys and girls wanna sign up for that and play, then you're of course welcome. And then I hope that we can follow through with that. But that will give a little bit more practice, and we're gonna see how things go. So in this game, Worker going for the Farseer first here, dropping the Voodoo Launch instead. No barracks for him so far. And up to the top left, as you can already see it in Ancient of War, is built right next to the camp on the left side, so trying to take down the Renegade Wizard here. When it comes to hero choices, what we're seeing from LiiLD.C is a Keeper first, and that doesn't really come as a surprise. Keeper right now is definitely one of the strongest heroes on the Nightelf side they can start with, and Tangle is just absolutely absurd these days, and therefore one of the preferred first choices on the side of the Nightelf player. I mean, you can still play Demon Hunter, but if you compare it to the strength of old, where Demon Hunter absolutely dominated every single Nightelf game, then Keeper has, through the recent patches, definitely seen a lot more popularity through that. So the whole idea, if you're a little bit new to Warcraft 3 with the Ancient of War, is that you simply drop one archer, you get that early on, and the buildings, or some of the buildings on the Nightelf player can root, and then you have the Trine that's just like going straight in and can start to soak all the damage in. So you build one archer, you start with that. In this case, we're seeing also mercenaries immediately being grabbed from the Nightelf. That's pretty common. Lightning shield already being used on the archer, and then you move it right straight into the mercenaries, and you help out with that, and they creep that really quickly. Medal of Intelligence, pretty decent item for the start here on the side of the Keeper, but you already have the Orc player immediately here starting the harass here with the Wolves, and that's exactly what you need to do. You're trying to keep your opponent low, and especially that Forest Troll Shadow Priest, you try and take that one down. That one has Dispel and Heal, and then against the Wolf, that's an absolutely fantastic unit to take. So if you can drop that early, and that's exactly what happens, that's gold right there. So already good move from Worker. Eats the Entangle here towards the end, and has dropped a lot of hit points. But taking down the Forest Troll Shadow Priest is actually really a big deal. So normally what you would try and do as Nightelf is to get a few more than later on. So once you get the first mercenary and you buy it, then you have to wait until you can secure a second one of the same kind, and so forth. So in this case, he has to wait a lot longer for that. If you get the Forest Troll Shadow Priest, not only does it help you a lot with the sustain and the heals in general, but also you can, against the Farseer, just go for the easy Dispel, and that is pretty sweet. So we're having Worker already with the harass straight in the base, and that's when the little dance in the mine oftentimes starts, where you try and get a wisp out of the mine, back into the mine, try and save them. But keep in mind that you can dispel wisps too, and every time you take these wolves down, there's of course the added benefit of you getting a bit more experience for your Keeper. Farseer so far sits at 25 experience, which means that he took exactly one wisp down. Having a couple more Moonwells being built here, and in the meantime the Orc is just like trying to get a bit more damage in. But of course, behind all of this, we're already seeing the tech straight into the Great Hall. We're gonna see the second hero being started pretty soon, and we're having a move into Headhunters on the side of Worker at this point. And with tier 2 completed, Altar of Storms is going to drop the second hero there, and then we're going to see how exactly he's going to play this. Now, you can still tower rush an opponent. We've seen that a couple of times. Shadowhunter second is usually what you would go for, then Headhunters could help with that too. But there's a couple of strategies these days that you can use in that place. But we have the Shadowhunter coming in, so Nightelf has to be careful. We see that strategy coming out, especially against greedy Nightelf. So when you try and go for a hard tech, you don't really add too many units, and you're hoping to go for Mountain Giants, for example, pretty quickly or anything like that. And with a good timing, you can actually move in and try and tower rush that pretty easily. So both of them still continuing here with creeping. We already have one potion of greater mana. That's actually fantastic for him here. Even an Ancient of Wonders being built down here, so we're going to see a bit more of an aggressive play on the side of LiiLD.C. When it comes to items, he's currently looking at the Rune Braces. Now, that doesn't really help him too much in this case. It's fantastic against Undead, against Orc. It's still a bit helpful against Chain Lightning, for example, but you have to be a little bit cautious. Oftentimes, it's going to be sold here. Even more going on. Need to be careful that you don't eat too much damage on the Farseer now, though, but there's no Wolves in play at this point. But he's going to get the Renegade Wizard just before the Night Elf moves in, and there we have a Potion of Greater Healing. It's actually fantastic items for the early game here when we're looking at that Farseer. Potion of Greater Mana and Greater Healing, but he eats the Entangle. Shadowhunter comes in, though, with a Healing Wave, so that's definitely going to help out here, but he still needs to back off this one, and that's where we are seeing the immediate Scroll of Speed being used. Still trying with the Naga Sea Bitch to get a quick Headhunter here in the back. That doesn't quite work out, but so far so good. Night Elf with a pressure play, and already having the Ancient of War straightforward, can start to also add pretty soon here an expansion, even if he wants to. We have a Tree of Ages in the base, no upgrades just yet on that, but already one Bestiary and the Spirit Lodge with the Shamans on the side of a Worker, and that of course going to help with the Purge against the Entangle pretty heavily, and those Treants as well. Already the pressure again against the second Force Roll Shadow Priest and takes that down, but the Focus Fire against Headhunters is doing pretty well. Chain Lightning coming through, and so does the Healing Wave, trying to keep the Orc units alive here while he's still aiming for those Mercenaries. Everything that you can take down that can't Shadow Melt is fantastic at this point in time, and the first Shamans here will already help out a lot against those Treants. You need to drop those as quickly as you can. Both of the teams are now completely relying on those summonings and attempting to get those through. The Headhunters are falling here, and especially against the Naga Sea, which is pretty difficult to move those away, but also the Archers are falling. The Shadow Meld is just coming through a little bit too late, but both of the Orc heroes are already extremely low in mana. So is the Night Elf, to be fair, but the Shadow Hunter is in trouble and gets slowed even more. Drops the Potion of Greater Healing here immediately, as we have a huge battle coming in with Eon Peons trying to soak up some of the damage and helping out. The Entangle hits the Farseer, no Purge available, and a last second heal and the Scroll of Speed are barely saving the first here on the side of the Orc. Another potion coming through, this time for the Naga Sea Bitch, as we're seeing LiiLD.C with this Night Elf units going even deeper and trying to push in here, but he will have to retreat eventually. Just lost most of his units, was just trying to pick up a couple of stragglers here, retreating again to his own Ancient, to his own shop, dropping a few items and trying to turn this one around. But so far Worker is doing fairly well here actually. As you can see right now, we're seeing down bottom right the Shadowhunter about to hit level 2, retreating once more. And at this point can also pretty safely assume that there's no expansion attempt on the side of the Night Elf just yet. So sometimes after or during a push you see at least the Tree of Life being put in place. We're not seeing that just yet. LiiLD.C is actually committing pretty heavily to this and already pressuring even more. Once more the Orc commits peons to the front line, and both the Keeper and the Naga are actually both extremely low here. And LiiLD.C will have to retreat for now. So pretty decent defense here on the side of Worker, doing extremely well with that. And saving that Farseer earlier was actually huge. But we have to point it out again. Having those items that he found, the Greater Mana Potion and the Greater Healing Potion, played a huge role in this. But LiiLD.C just doesn't let up on the action. The Chain Lightning comes through but a bit too late as the Keeper already ate the potion. So back to half health. Mana still low in both. The Naga are trying to get a couple of shots through. Peons at the front line soaking some of the damage, and we're seeing once more the Treants coming into the back line. Level 4 for the Keeper. Big items here for him. Oh, sorry, big levels for him right now, with even a couple of Wisps coming through, dropping the mana low on the Shamans and the heroes. Keeper and Naga, though, extremely low here. He will have to use that TP pretty soon if he isn't careful. Moves back just in time, and thanks to the gap in the forest here that with the Treants, he's able to move away, at least for the time being. But the Orcs still defending fairly nicely here. It's really the summonings that are the biggest problem, and with a few Wisps moving down and dropping the mana on the remaining Shaman, that's actually a big deal here for him. If he can get a few more, then he would be able to use the Purge once again. But right now, that ranged army on the side of Worker is still helping him out quite nicely. Wolves summoned again, And with the Farseer on level 3, those are already on level 2, so the Dire Wolves moving in and trying to pressure the ranged unit. In this case, even the second hero, since the Naga is so incredibly low. With a bit more mana, he could use the Chain Lightning and drop there pretty quickly. Not quite the case here just yet. Nice micro from LiiLD.C, but the Archer falls. Second one being attacked now too. And we're seeing the focus fire shifting immediately to the keep on the front line. But both of the players are doing an exceptional job just dancing around with their units here. Another Chain Lightning rattling through the Nightelf army, dropping one of the archers. The second one falls shortly after. The Hex is great against the Naga, but still able to move away. Not enough mana on the Farseer to get another Chain Lightning here, and that is just non-stop action in this game on Turner Stand. Once again, the level looking also pretty solid for the Shadowhunter. 2 is gonna hit soon. Keeper nearly falling, but the Naga already pulled through with the town portal. Great play here from Worker. Good defense by him. Holding on for now. Farseer on 3, Shadowhunter pretty much as well. He's currently sitting on 34 supply against 28. And LiiLD.C now has to shift his tactic a little bit and think about how he's going to run this. If you look at the base here, he doesn't really have any tech units, so he didn't go for any tier 2 units. He's just going for the mercenary camp, getting another Force Roll Shadow Priest into the action. And with only 2 Ancient of Wars, no Ancient of Lores, no Tree of Life, nothing on those lines, he will have to try and just use his map control for now to get his levels going, get some experience in there, and drop a couple of camps. So I'm pretty curious to see what kind of decision making we're going to see from him now, since when you look at the Orc army, we are still seeing at least the ability on the side of Worker to now get some tier 2 units into the game as well. And there's the Kodo already. We've seen the Shaman in play a bit earlier, and he could now easily start to shift the focus a bit more towards the Raiders. Once that he does that, he could have a way higher pressure play available to him against his opponent's heroes in particular, and both of those are not really very hit point heavy. Once again, Mercenary Camp access, another coming through here. 2 Force Roll Shadow Priests now, and already starting to dispel all of the wolves here. Dreens coming in, getting purged immediately, but also here the Kodo Priest straight with the Devour against the Shadow Priest. Worker is looking pretty solid here right now, but he needs to be a little more careful. Losing his Shaman here, definitely not the best thing for him to happen. A couple of Spirit Walkers would also do fairly well for him, but great focus fire after the Entang on the Farseer, and he has no town portal, tries to get away here, might actually be the end of him. The Farseer down, and that's a massive problem. Worker all of a sudden on the back foot again as his first hero falls, and a huge chunk of experience falls into the lap of the Night Elf player. Another quick entangle, this time against the Kodo, and that's another huge hit against Worker. Great damage here, gets the Forest Troll Shadow Priest back as well. Big win here for LiiLD.C. Keeper nearly level 5, Naga Sea Bitch currently on level 3, and he is really setting up that pressure play right now. Both of them still on 1 base, no chance for either one to really get an expansion going here, but of course the Farseer is now about to be revived, at least trying to, but he needs to try and bide his time here. Immediately using the Orc Burrows here for defense, but LiiLD.C is pushing very deep into the base of the Orc player at this point, and with only the Shadow Hunter available here, there's little that you can do in terms of damage. It's more so about the sustain through the healing wave. Another Headhunter falling though, getting body blocked, and this is a massive problem. With no upgrades on a potential tier 3, we're seeing those heavy armored burrows really falling fast, very quickly even, and the repair is there, but it's just not enough. Down the first one goes, and that could immediately pose a problem to you in the long run if it comes to your supply. We already have it in the oversupply, no more units being available for him, but good experience still in the hands of the Shadowhunter. That's the only plus that he has right now. A couple of Peons in the Orc Burrow here, trying to get the shots through, and the Naga is actually getting low. LiiLD.C has to be careful. Body block, the Archer in a really bad spot, and that could be the end of it, and the Naga falls. Misplay on the side of LiiLD.C, sees it a bit too late that there is a body block against the second hero, and that is putting an end to the attack, at least for the time being. A bit of a sigh of relief here that we are seeing from Worker, and as we said before, he's going to have the Farseer back fairly soon. Shadowhunter on 3.5 by now. Quick look into the base of LiiLD.C. Our Nightelf in play shows pretty quickly that we're actually not really seeing any additional tech. He's staying on the Ancient of Wars, he's trying to follow it through with the entire strategy here, and that tech advantage that we've been talking about earlier for Worker is still in play. The biggest problem for Worker is that whenever he was starting to try and capitalize on the tech advantage that he has in those tier 2 structures, He just got them sniped very early. LiiLD.C focused a lot of the entangles on those backliners, was trying to get the shamans, was dropping the Kodo beast as quickly as he could, and that makes the tech advantage basically non-existent because he can't field any units here. Now, with the Orc Burrow dropped early on, that was also a bit of an issue, since of course that put him into the oversupply just for a little bit. Now we're having a few more shamans built, but you can already tell that LiiLD.C is just fielding another attack. And he has to. He has no other opportunity, no other options here. He needs to go for the aggression because this is his play. He can't catch up in tech, and if he leaves the Orc a little bit more time, then the only result is going to be a very tech-heavy Orc player going up against the Nightelf that just doesn't have any tier 2 structures just yet. Worker needs to be careful. The Entangle actually hitting his Shadow Hunter here, but he's able to move out regardless. Range damage siege is continuing as the Swedish Nightelf player is trying to push through, but first starts to creep the shop, gets level 4 for the Naga, and we're already seeing him here in the inventory with a Scroll of Healing and a Scroll of Protection. So really trying to once again lay siege to the Orc, who at least for now has a Watchtower, a fortified one, in his own base. But if you look at the army, there is one Shaman and a Kodo. So a couple of tier 2 units, but not really too much to rely upon. We're having the Kodo at least in the back, and with the War Drum's aura, that is some damage output that you're going to get through it. And if you get close, then of course Devour can also help you out, but he needs to be really careful, because he doesn't have a lot of Dispel. So when those Entangles come through, he needs to be able to move that Kodo back, so he needs to make sure that he's staying a little bit farther in the back. Another Entangle heading the Shadow Hunter, Scroll of Protection coming in, Chain Lightning, and the attempt to get at least a few of the archers out of the way. That's successful, at least for the time being. Wisp detonating in the backline again, hitting all the heroes and the shamans as well. There's 2 of them at this point. The Kodo all the way up at the front, and has the Entangle that we've been talking about. So LiiLD.C using everything that he has to snipe that super quickly. Bit of a misposition of the Kodo here, and we're seeing again treants against the wolves, but this time there's not a lot of Dispel available for LiiLD.C either. He doesn't have those Forest Roll Shadow Priests any longer, and actually Worker is actually doing really well right now, trying to get those archers out of the way, and LiiLD.C is starting to struggle. Even a couple of Serpent Wards now coming through, and sieging into those is going to be a huge problem for LiiLD.C here. Nice cancel also on the Potion Clarity that we just saw, but we already have a few more structures moving in. And as time continues, I mean, I'm more worried about how long those bases are going to stand there. If you look at the gold mines, we're looking at 2,300 gold on the side of Worker. Again, the pressure play against the Keeper, and that bad boy is level 5 by now. Could get Tranquility in just a bit. Levels on the side of our Orc friend are at 4.5 and 4. So trying to apply even more pressure. Another Shaman also going down. We still have one in the backline that can at least purge a little bit and is doing a great job at that, adding more experience to the Orc heroes. But still, another Archer falls. Both of them doing a really good job with those last hits right now. But the pressure is still on. LiiLD.C with just this amazing non-stop siege that we're seeing from him here. We're really enjoying that. And now finally we're seeing Ensnare being researched and him trying to switch a bit more heavily into Raiders. I would have loved to see that a bit earlier, to be honest. I really think with all the pressure that he was trying to build against the Naga and the Keeper, if he would have had that Ensnare a bit earlier, that would have been fantastic. But now we're seeing exactly that Beast3 heavily pressured from LiiLD.C, and that's going to be the end of at least this structure. So, big problem for Worker. He might have had the tech earlier, but he couldn't really capitalize on it too much. 2 Kodos that he had didn't really give him too much because they were dropped pretty early. No Raiders for him whatsoever to put additional pressure onto the Nightelf heroes. But he still has 2 Shamans, is building a 3rd right now. So he's finally starting to look at a little bit of resources that he can use to not only dispel the Entangle as soon as he comes through, but also drop those pesky treants immediately. With 3 in the back and a little bit of mana building up now, we will have a few of those available. But if you're looking up to the top, now we're going to see 1,200 gold on the side of LiiLD.C. He has the advantage that, of course, his Tree of Ages can move. And down here, we're still seeing that non-stop battle. Worker is really just like a boxer in the corner, trying to defend the entire time. Should need... he's too late with the peons here to try and repair the tower, so that one's done now too. But he at least got 1 Raider through. I actually even missed that one. So good move by him, but he's moving in really deep and is going to lose him now as well. So that Raider is down. He got at least something out of it. The Force Roll Shadow Priest is down. That's a big deal, as we said before. The heals that come through and also the Dispel would have been fantastic here. And now with a level 5 Farseer, their Shadow Wolves are going to absolutely demolish these archers. There's no Dispel available, so dropping that Force Troll Shadow Priest was massive. That was really huge. With good use of the Ensnare. Should have tried to save the Raider, but at least he was able to get that out of the way. 2 Shamans now dropped as well. A little bit weak on the micro side actually now when it comes to these units. He's doing exceptionally well when it comes to the hero management, but those Shamans should not have fallen that easily. But as long as he has mana on the Farseer, he can at least get those Shadow Wolves through. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And it's a massive damage against the Farseer in particular. Larodar here already dropping to half HP, but nearly on level 6, and those heroic abilities, those ultimates, are going to do a lot of work. For the Snaga, Potion of Lesser Invulnerability saving her for now. Quick trip to the shop. We all know what girls love. Straight going for the shopping here. No boots for her though. But the pressure against the Farseer, and now he needs to be careful. Another quick hit, but it's not coming through. Instead, it's the healing wave. Naga exposed in this case, and the Shadow Wolves are already on the mission, but the heal comes through with the shop in place. He can at least drop the gold here to heal that, but mana is low, hit points are 2, and this is really the time where we're going to see a massive hero battle, because let's face it, on the unit side there's not going to be too much had. When you look at the gold, the mine is about to expire. He does have a little bit of resource that he could use to maybe try and drop another expansion here, but the problem is literally that we have for LiiLD.C already at the Tree of Ages on the move. Now both of them not mining any longer, and it's really the question, what do you spend your resources on? Are we going to see an attempt by Worker to go for an expansion himself and secure that somehow, or are we just seeing him making use of the Voodoo launch here of the shop, trying to get a few clarity potions through and attempting to get the wolves into pressure? So peons are already on the move. Entangle comes through, no perch available at this point apparently, at least doesn't use it just yet, doesn't really feel the need here, but the pressure is in, and we are seeing both of LiiLD.C's hero extremely low. You might have a keeper level 6, but that doesn't do jack shit if you don't have the mana to use it, and those Shadow Wolves are very aggressive at this point. They're really a huge problem. If those Shadow Wolves are starting to focus on one of the heroes and you don't have anything to dispel them with, Wisps have already been used throughout the entire game to make that happen, then you're in trouble and you know it. The Farseer are capitalizing at this point too also on the 2 Mantles of Intelligence that you already found earlier, so that at least gives you a bit of a damage bonus, and at the same time also benefiting of course the mana pool and regeneration. But now for Worker, it's literally just the opposite of what he had to do the entire game. Up to this point, it was all about defense. You needed to defend. You needed to make sure that you just hold on to bare life here. But now he's trying to get a few more items, a little bit more gold, and then try and attack himself. Because he knows that that Tree of Ages is already about to set roots once again. And he is not making any moves to get an expansion at this time at least. I mean, let's look quickly. He has the resources, so he can at least do that. If he wants to, he can try and set up an expand. But that's the big question here. Up to the top, you're already seeing, actually missing the Tomb of Agility here. Up, no, Naga's on the way. Alright, didn't miss it. So, sends the Naga over to grab it. Of course, you want to get it with a Naga, and he doesn't take it. Alright. So at this point, the Tree of Ages is going to come into play. And now the question down here, how we're going to see Worker play the rest of the game. He's already putting the expansion into place. Great Hall. So he's not going for a Hail Mary move. And is still continuing to creep. And again, creep does not, like, up to level 5 you can get experience through creeping. After level 5 you can't do that any longer, so you can't creep your hero to his heroic ability, to his ultimate on level 6. But in this case now you at least get gold. Fork Lightning coming through against the low HP units that we're seeing for Worker. That's actually fantastic, but the healing wave is at least saving a few of them. And as we said before, once that you have those level 3 Shadow Wolves, they are just absolute beasts. You have the critical, you have the invisibility, and archers just don't hold a candle to all of that. So another couple of purges coming through here from the Shamans, getting a bit more experience in. Farseer is on a level 5, Shadow Hunter as well. That's definitely going to do quite a bit of work. Tranquility being used here to heal at least the heroes up after the last little skirmish that we had. And we're back to our old problem for the Nightelf, the same that he had throughout the entire game. The idea behind the strategy was to build a strong early game army and then very heavily rely on the CC that you have through the slows and entangles from the Naga Sea Witch and the Keeper. Try and siege up onto the Orc and drop him. But that's the main reason why he didn't really get any tech outside of the Tree of Ages. When you're looking over to our Orc, now he is once again attempting to at least capitalize on the Spirit Lodge and those tier 2 units that he has. He doesn't have the Beastry anymore though, and that's a huge blow. That's actually a big problem. It was a great move earlier by LiiLD.C, and look at that amount of trained army that is now coming through here. But immediately the Hex on Lorodar, our Keeper, and he can set the pressure up right there. Ring of Protection on the ground, not being picked up by anyone just yet. Here comes the Tranquility as we're having LiiLD.C committing to the Heroic, and the Shadow Hunter level 5 has fallen. Had the Ankh right there and is going to put that to the test now. But already dropping the item here, also no chance for him to do anything about it in the sense of maybe even selling it and using the money instead. But just look at the amount of trains that we have. The summons are there, but we have again the pressure play through the Shadow Wolves against the Keeper. The Shadow Hunter on level 5 is low. The Naga wants him, tries to move in again. Another shot fired here, cancelling the healing salve as well. And we have the Great Hall completed. A slight advantage though still on the side of the Night Elf if you think about income, because he just simply had this expansion already a bit earlier. Now the Naga is going to escape here. Level 5 for her just now. And just looking over to the Farseer, level 5 for him. No ultimates on the side of the Orc heroes. I have to say it's actually a little bit tricky to go from heroic abilities straight into ultimates again. I mean, I think most people probably picked up on that already, but some of the the Heroes of the Storm habits are still there. But again, Tranquility being dropped here immediately, so trying to make sure that he has everything healed up properly. I mean, so far he still can rely on the Moonwells. But I'm liking the chances that we're seeing here on the side of Worker quite a bit right now. Now again, his heroes are insanely strong with that setup. He just needs to make sure that nothing dies to that setup with the frost arrows that we're seeing from the Naga and the Entangle. If he can do that, that would be fantastic for him. But this is going to be the challenge for him, keeping that Shadow Hunter in particular alive. But he also needs to try and snipe those Forest Troll Shadow Priests, and that's what he's probably going to try and do. Yep, with the wolves right here. Bam! Down already. Entangle even being dropped. So not only do those bad boys do a really good job at just moving in for that, but also you can take down, you can scout. And he re-summoned them as well to deny the experience to the Night Elf. That's a big thing in WarCraft 3 if you guys are not really all that familiar with the game. It's not only about you trying to take your opponent down, but if you're familiar with Dota 2, for example, the concept shouldn't be foreign to you. You're trying to kill your own units or re-summon summons down here just to make sure that your opponent doesn't get the experience for it. Especially since we're looking at really high-level heroes right now, you don't want them to get even higher with this. Okay, so LiiLD.C heavily relying on mercenaries right now. Even going for the Augur Mauler here, we're having also one Forest Troll Berserker, so he's trying to build up a bit of a shield, has those treants still in play, and we're only having one single Shaman, at least for the time being. So there's not really a lot of Dispel available, and again, I said it before, but I'll say it again, that tech advantage that we've been praising earlier for Worker is not really a big factor here anymore, since the Beastry was taken down, and he's not committing too heavily to Shamans. He has 2 by now, with quite a bit of mana, so at least that helps him slightly against the treants. Again, the Forward Lightning needs to counter that with a healing chain, with a chain wave, and that's immediately what we're seeing here. Already, Wolves focusing down the units now too. Another healing wave would do wonders in this case, but there we go. Once more, we're having another Shaman joining the fun, and there's the first and the next Purge, doing massive damage to those summoned units, and still keeping both of those backliners alive. Wolves are doing fairly well here, but LiiLD.C is gaining a little bit of ground. You look at the mana pool on the other hand, and that tells a very different story, because our Night Elf is still having huge issues with that mana management, whereas we are seeing for Worker still a bit of mana available on the Farseer for another summoning, and you can use that.
LiiLD.C is making a bit of a Hail Mary move towards the expansion here, and especially the trees, that's his big asset. Do we have a Hex? No, we don't. Scroll of Speed even being used to chase that Keeper away, but he's not the only one. The Naga is also receiving a ton of pressure at this point. Could even think about dropping a Purge on her eventually and trying to chase her down, but those trees are doing work, and they're not the only ones. You look at the Farseer, and all of a sudden he's falling low, and that's a massive problem. Another set of Wolf is being summoned, but the Farseer goes down, and that might actually be the end of it. LiiLD.C has done a fantastic job throughout the game to keep his heroes alive, despite the fact that they were always incredibly low. Now the Hex comes through, the Naga falls just as I say. That's the level 6 right on the Shadow Hunter, and we're having already another quick drop on those Serpent Wards. But you look at that Keeper, and that is not a pretty or a happy Keeper. They are having a couple of archers trying to use a Shadow Melt, but that's also not going to help them too much. The game at this point, very much so, well, I don't really want to call it just yet for the Orc, but it doesn't really look too pretty. Look over here, looking at 21 supply, we're looking at the Orc and we have 23, so supply is fairly even. Re-bought already the Naga for now. Has level 6, so it's double ultimate that we're seeing now for him. Look over to the Great Hall, and we have a couple more peons being built to at least get the economy going again. When it comes to resources, it looks like Worker can't really rely on quite as much as the Nightelf. I mean, we have that small window where LiiLD.C could already set his one up, but yep, Farseer only halfway through. And that opens up a bit of a window that we're seeing for LiiLD.C now. So with him still having the resources to buy the Naga back and still going straight for the mercenaries, game is starting to look a lot better for him. It was actually after the Naga died and he chased the Keeper away, I was nearly ready to call it here for the Orc, but then the resource difference making too much of a difference here, since one player could, as we can see here, buy his second hero back, and the other one is still to wait for it to be rebuilt in the altar, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. So all of a sudden the expansion is extremely vulnerable, and I just don't see any way how he can possibly save this one. Already he's not having any incoming in longer, since all of the peons are starting to move back and every single unit counts at this stage of the game. There's still the Shadow Hunter in play. We have actually 5 Headhunters, 2 Shamans, and he's just waiting for the Farseer. But as you can tell here, most of the peons are already down, and that is more or less going to put a pretty big dip into the income of our Nightelf, oh sorry, our Orc friend here. So here's going to be the last hurrah. Farseer is back to business, but already Fork Lightning coming through. Heal Wave not just yet, a little bit too late to save the Headhunter. And now with a Farseer back to business, it's just a question who's able to save his heroes here. Again, less mana on the Naga, but he doesn't really need too much here. We have not too much on the Farseer either, but good pressure, at least for now. The Tranquility, though, is putting a stop to that aggression immediately here. That Naga is not going to fall anytime soon. Level 6 on the Farseer finally, but I'm not quite sure how much that's going to change. The archers are already attempting to take the last remaining peon down, and once that bad boy is gone, there's no income whatsoever left for Worker. He's trying to make the Hail Mary play right now for the Keeper. The Hex comes through, but the surround attempt against the Farseer. The Keeper's in trouble, though, in a lot of trouble. Getting body blocked here as well. The Hex is good, and that's the kill. Farseer might fall as well, but at least both of the forced heroes are already gone, and the Wolves are in play, at least for the time being, putting massive pressure onto the Naga, and all of a sudden, we are having that game lasting even longer than I expected. That is actually some nice defense on the side of Worker. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough, though. The Naga is going to be able to escape, and we're already seeing at the mercenary camp a Mud Golem. We're seeing the Shadow Priest and the Berserker taken. So even with the kill against the Keeper and a level 7 Shadow Hunter, I'm not quite sure how much that's going to help Worker. He just doesn't have the workers anymore, no pun intended. And is trying to get some units back, but a Shadow Hunter solo defense against the setup that we're having here for Worker is not, for LiiLD.C is not going to fly. There's the GG, and that is the game, as we have LiiLD.C taking the match against Worker here. The Nightelf triumphant in the end. GG, and well played. So once again, guys, I'm still trying to get my footing here in WarCraft 3, but if you enjoy the cast so far already, make sure that you drop a like on the video, and of course you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. Again, a quick reminder, I'm gonna try and cast the tournament on Sunday, so I'm gonna drop the link into the description if you want to check it out, and if you maybe want to participate as well. That being said, if you enjoy those casts, then make sure that you are drop a comment into the comment section. And that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the show here. Gonna try and work on it, getting familiar with the meta a little bit, and also getting used with all of the terminology again. And I'm gonna see you guys soon with another game here. So enjoy your week, and yeah, talk to you guys soon.